Willem Holleeder was born on May 29, 1958, in Amsterdam. He grew up in a criminal environment and became involved in criminal activities at a young age. Holleeder's criminal activities began in his teenage years, when he and his brother, Gerard, started stealing cars. Over time, Holleeder became involved in more serious crimes, including armed robberies and extortion. He quickly gained a reputation as a tough and ruthless criminal, and he became a prominent figure in the Amsterdam underworld. Despite his criminal activities, Holleeder was able to maintain close relationships with some well-known people in Dutch society. Holleeder's criminal career came to a head in the early 2000s, when he was arrested and charged with a number of serious crimes, including murder, extortion, and money laundering. He was eventually convicted and sentenced to life in prison in 2019, although he is currently appealing the verdict. In the 1980s and 1990s, Holleeder became increasingly infamous and was involved in several high-profile crimes. One of the most notorious cases involving Holleeder was the kidnapping of beer magnate Freddy Heineken and his driver in 1983. The Heineken kidnapping was a highly publicized event that shocked the Netherlands and the world. Freddy Heineken, the CEO of the Heineken Beer Company, and his driver, Abdouderer, were abducted on November 9, 1983, in Amsterdam. The kidnappers were demanding a ransom of 35 million guilders, which at the time was equivalent to around $17 million. The police initially had few leads in the case, but eventually, they received a tip that led them to a shed in Amsterdam. The police raided the shed and found Heineken and Abdouderer, who had been held captive for 3 weeks. Van Hout, Holleeder and Meyer managed to escape just in time. Van Hout and Holleeder decided to go to Paris, where they hired an apartment. On 29 February 1984 they were arrested by the France police. Holleeder and his accomplices, Cor Van Hout, Jan Boellard, Frans Meyer, and Martin Urkamps, were eventually charged with kidnapping, extortion, and other crimes. The trial of Holleeder and his accomplices was a media sensation, and it lasted for months. The prosecution presented evidence that the kidnappers had meticulously planned the abduction, and that they had even built a replica of the room in which Heineken and Abdouderer were held captive. The defense argued that Holleeder and the others were not the masterminds behind the kidnapping, but rather, they had been coerced into participating. In the end, Holleeder and his accomplices were found guilty and sentenced to prison terms. Holleeder was sentenced to 11 years in prison, but he was released after serving just over 6 years. The Heineken kidnapping is still remembered as one of the most high-profile crimes in Dutch history. The case was later made into a movie, titled The Heineken Kidnapping, which was released in 2011. Holleeder's involvement in the kidnapping is just one example of his criminal activities, which have left a lasting impact on Dutch society. Holleeder was released from prison in 2012 after serving his sentence for the Heineken kidnapping. However, he soon made headlines again for his involvement in criminal activities. But it's not just his criminal activities that have made Willem Holleeder so infamous. He was also a highly controversial figure because of his behavior and personality. Holleeder was often described as arrogant and manipulative, and he had an uncanny ability to create conflict and controversy. Holleeder's reputation as a controversial figure was further cemented by his appearances on Dutch television. In 2011, he was featured in a television program called College Tour.
Ik ben Willem Holleeder. Binnenkort zit ik in College Tour en ik zie er naar uit om de vragen van alle studenten te beantwoorden.
In which he was interviewed by a group of university students. During the interview, Holleeder made several controversial statements, including denying his involvement in the Heineken kidnapping and stating that he had never killed anyone.
Dit is voor u eigenlijk, zo zie ik het, een kans om uw goede kant te laten zien aan het publiek. En mijn vraag aan u is dat stiekem ook niet een beetje zo?
Nou, volgens mij ben je een beetje in de war.
Nu alsof u het slachtoffer bent.
Ben je er nou nog?
Ja, ik ben er nog
Ja,
steeds.
ging toch strafwerk
Ik ben er nog
maken? Wat is
steeds.
er nou voor gekkigheid, jongen? Ga weg.
Waar is het restant van het geld gebleven uit de ontvoeringszaak van Heineken?
Nou, dat zeg ik u dan nog een keer. Dat is verbrand op het strand.
Alles is weg.
The interview was widely criticized, and many viewers saw it as an attempt by Holleeder to whitewash his criminal past. The personality of Willem Holleeder is often described as manipulative, cunning, and ruthless. He has been known to use fear and intimidation to control those around him, and his actions have caused pain and suffering to many.
Ik heb wel stoer doen.
Nee, ik ben net...
Maar ze morgen op je afgelopen, misschien die 2 keer door je pan heen en dat.
Een bekende Nederland, ik laat me door niemand hier uitkafferen. Wie dan ook. Begrijp je dat?
In a creepy way, it can be said that Holleeder's personality is like that of a predator lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce on its prey. His story is an example of how a criminal lifestyle can affect not only the individual, but also society as a whole. In conclusion, Willem Holleeder is undoubtedly one of the most notorious criminals in Dutch history. His life and criminal activities have been the subject of much debate and controversy, and his impact on Dutch society has been significant. While Holleeder may be behind bars, his legacy lives on. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.